Now, going back to my little encrypting program, I've already dealt specially with the exclamation mark character, which I explained in the last lesson. Now there's one other character that I want to treat specially, and that's the space character. When a space is encountered, for example, the space character between the words hello, space, world, I want to retain that space character in the encrypted string rather than encrypt it. So it'll appear as a space both in the original string and in the encrypted string. If I encrypted it, it would be substituted by some other character, which I don't want. Well, this is how my code does that. Look at the continue statement here. This is a bit like a less dramatic version of break. Whereas break exits the loop and stops running the code in the loop anymore, continue exits the loop, but then it carries on running the code in the loop. So it exits it once rather than permanently. In my example, if I break on the exclamation mark, the code in the loop stops running. So given the string hello space world exclamation mark space goodbye, the code would process right up to the exclamation mark character and no further. But the code will continue when it processes the space character. That means it exits the loop when the space is found after hello, but then it continues running the loop to process the rest of the characters, for example, the characters in world. As with break, you should use continue with some caution, because there may be sometimes good reasons for jumping out of code blocks using break or continue, but jumps like this can make your code really hard to understand, and in complex programs they can also result in subtle bugs. Now here is another example of break and continue, and this time it translates the encrypted string, the one that I've just encrypted, by subtracting 1 from each character, because remember that when I encrypted the characters I just added 1 to their ASCII codes. So now it translates back to an unencrypted version of the string. And this time it copies the unencrypted characters back into the string str, which initially contained the encrypted string. That's the string that I built up when I did the encryption in the earlier loop. Now, since the space characters in this string, str, are not encrypted because I specifically did not encrypt the space, the code here ignores spaces when it encounters them by executing continue. But it breaks when the string terminator, that's the null character, is found. That null character was added, if you remember, in the encryption code up here, when it found my original string terminator, which I designated as the exclamation mark. Now this project, that's 02_break and continue, in the source code archive also contains an example of breaking out of a while loop. You can find this in the while break function here. This time it runs a while loop with no valid end condition, and that's because in this case I will always be greater than or equal to 0. I've set I as 0 here, and the test is while I is greater than or equal to 0. Well, that will keep on running forever because the value of I never decreases, it only increases as I add 1 to it when I increment it down here. So how do I end this loop? Well, let's look at what it does first of all. The loop displays the character and the numeric code of each item in char array, and it builds a new string that ends when the exclamation character is found. Now, a loop with no end condition is going to run forever unless I explicitly break out of it. And in this loop, when the exclamation mark is found, it breaks. So that's another example of using break in a different sort of loop. We've used it in for and in while. Let me just verify that this all works. Build and run the project. And these are the results. And you can see this is what my while loop displays. It displays each of the characters with their index, HELLO, space character, and so on. right up until the exclamation mark at the end.